Good morning, everybody. It's Lynn here, the Go Live Granny, and it is Wednesday, the 15th of January 2024. And did you know that the 15th of January is Wear a Hat Day? I know I wear hats lots of the time, but even more so, why shouldn't I come on here and do a live stream for my Go Live Granny community wearing a hat? Nothing unusual there. However, something happened yesterday that prompted me to want to do a video. And when I decided I was going to do a video, I was going to do it yesterday, but I was tired and I left it till today. Well, who knew? I certainly hadn't remembered until I went on Facebook last night that today was actually Wear a Hat Day. And in the past, I've done lots of videos around wearing a hat. Different charities support the Wear a Hat Day. Back in the past, I made some hats for the Brainy Bunch, which is the charity that supports people with brain tumours on the Isle of Wight and any people connected with them. And I've made hats in the past for that charity. But long ago, I started making hats for the Big Knit. Now, the Big Knit is a campaign that was started by the Innocent Smoothie Company. They make smoothie drinks, and they have some in small bottles and some in larger bottles. But back in 2003, they started the Big Knit campaign. And basically, they were asking people to make little hats, any sorts of little hats that would go. This is not an Innocent Smoothie, but I haven't got one to hand, but I have got a drinks bottle. So basically, they were asking people to make hats to go that they could put on the Innocent Smoothie bottles. And people all over the UK started knitting, making all sorts of amazing hats, not just bobble hats. I mean, I do bobble hats because they're quick and easy, but I also do some more intricate ones. And so for years, people have been doing that. Now, for years, I was doing that, and I was parceling them up and sending them off to Age UK for their campaign. Well, some years later, I live on the Isle of Wight, and some years later, I was having a chat with somebody in the Works, one of our wonderful shops on the island, and I was standing near the doorway and chatting to some random person like I do. And Paula, somebody I knew from the past, a blast from the past, walked past the shop, and she heard my voice, and she came on in to have a chat with me. Long story short, it turned out that she had become part of the fundraising team at Age UK Isle of Wight, and we agreed to have coffee. And during that coffee meet, she told me that if I made these little hats and gave them in at the Age UK Isle of Wight office there on the island, all the money raised would stay on the Isle of Wight. Well, that appealed to me, to actually use the money that we've raised for local causes. That was really just up my street. So I did it. I encouraged a lot of people to do it. We've encouraged people over the years to just get involved in the campaign. And then during the pandemic years, we got lots of knitters on board who knitted loads and loads. And I'm not quite sure how many we submitted last time, but it was bearing in mind these are all just little hats like that. When I took them to the Age UK office, it filled 2 of those great big laundry bags that you can buy, those zip-up laundry bags. It was amazing. And we displayed them and made a wonderful collage of them. I managed to find somebody who had got the large shape of the Isle of Wight, a huge shape of the Isle of Wight, and I'd seen it on display at the county show, and it had fruit in it when I saw it on display at the county show. I thought, do you know what, that would be a marvellous backdrop, a marvellous setting to put our smoothie hats into. So I was able to borrow it for a short space of time. It was housed over at the Garlic Festival. So my friends and I, we went over to the Garlic Farm, sorry, not the Garlic Festival, the Garlic Farm, and we went to the Garlic Farm and we borrowed the shape. We went out in and put it in front of their wonderful meadow that they just allow to grow, and we photographed all the hats. They wouldn't all fit in the shape. Some of them went on the mat around the shape of the Isle of Wight. And I will try and tag a picture of the of that wonderful photo shoot down below. And what even more special was during those months when I was promoting the Big Knit for that year, we had people all over the country watching the Go Live Granny community because we'd had, I think it was during the COVID years, I got a lot of people starting to watch me. I became the Go Live Granny for promoting the Isle of Wight initially, but during COVID, I couldn't go out and promote the island because there were no carnivals going on and it just wasn't an option, but my audience still wanted me to live stream. So I decided to live stream about my interests, about my garden. Of course, one of my interests is knitting. I've knitted since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, and I'm now 74. So that's a lot of knitting and a lot of stitches under the bridge or off the needles or whatever you call it. I then, in COVID, decided that I would do some knitting and talk to people about my knitting. The idea was I'd been promoting the Isle of Wight, and I'd done loads of promotions of the Isle of Wight, but in COVID, I couldn't go out, and there was none of the events going on because we were all locked down. So the only things left to me were my interests, and of course, a big interest of mine is knitting. So I talked about my knitting, and we ended up with people all over the UK because people didn't want me to stop live streaming. They said it was important for their mental health through COVID. And you know what? It was. We had an amazing time, an amazing lot of people join us during that period. It was good for my mental health. It was good for everybody else's mental health. Coming together every night at 10 o'clock to have a bit of fun. The 10 o'clock news was on, it was always doom and gloom. So let's actually have something other than doom and gloom at 10 o'clock. So we used to have a laugh and a joke. I would live stream, the viewers would come in via Facebook and YouTube and chat in the online chat. We had a great time. But what I didn't know when I started that process was the great result that would come. So in different ways. And one of the results was we'd raised loads of money for charity because obviously talking about things like the Big Knit, lots of people decided they wanted to knit the smoothie hats as well. So they all started knitting smoothie hats, and I was showing the ones I'd done, and they were sending pictures of what they'd done, and then they were sending me all the hats. And so we had this enormous amount of smoothie hats to hand over to the last campaign, and it was amazing. And we were sent a certificate by Age UK Isle of Wight because they were really thrilled. So we got a gold certificate. I've got it at home. I'm not at home at the moment, but I've got it at home, and I will display it again when I get home. To say thank you to all the marvellous knitters from the Go Live Granny community. And so, the Big Knit used to happen every year, and then there'd been a gap, and lots of people were saying, well, when's it going to happen again? They're all waiting, and some people started knitting because it will happen again. Some people wanted to know for sure that it was. So as soon as I knew that there was a campaign for 2025, I put the information out there. Age UK Isle of Wight had popped the picture up, that wonderful picture of the Isle of Wight with all the smoothie hats in it. And I shared that on, and I threw the gauntlet down to my community to say, come on, let's get this going. Now, Age UK Isle of Wight keep the money on the island as long as they hit the target. And this year's target is 12,500 hats. And the deadline is the 30th of June 2025. So that's quite a few knitting days between now and then. But what better day to kickstart it on screen here than the National Hat Day. As I say, yesterday when I thought I'd do a video, I was too tired. I thought, oh no, I'll do it tomorrow. Maybe something was in my psyche that said, do it tomorrow because it's Big Hat Day. Well, I've got a big hat on. It's not a smoothie hat. It's just one of the lovely hats that I had that I was wearing for Christmas. Maybe I should make a big hat with smoothie hats on it, a big hat with lots of little hats on it. Now there's an idea. So I'm appealing to everybody, whether you knit or whether you don't, pick up those needles. And it's, you know, the amazing thing about this is some people who never knitted started to knit because of this campaign. Now, going back to that photograph that we took, or those several photographs we took over at the Garlic Farm, just before I left home to go to that photo shoot, I was waiting for the postman, because I knew that Janet, who was one of my viewers from Devon, had started knitting. She'd never knitted before, and she started knitting in order to join the Go Live Granny committed knitters to provide hats for that campaign. Now, wasn't that amazing? She'd never knitted before. Her daughter taught her to knit. And she knitted 50 hats for that campaign. That's no small feat for somebody who didn't know how to knit just before that. So she knitted 50 hats. She posted them to me, and I waited that day because I knew they were on their way, and I hoped the postie would bring them. So I waited in until the postie had been, and sure enough, this parcel arrived with these 50 hats in. So those 50 hats are in that picture. So if you see that lovely picture of the Isle of Wight with all the smoothie hats in it, if you're looking at the picture face on, down at the bottom on the mat underneath the Isle of Wight shape, in this corner, so that would be, if you're looking on, it will be the bottom left-hand corner, there are 50 hats that were made by Janet, who only learnt to knit for that campaign. That was amazing. So that campaign's been and gone. We've been waiting and waiting, and now we have announcement that 2025 Big Knit campaign is on. So I started knitting the other day. I'm supposed to be knitting a cardigan for my granddaughter, but I thought, let's kickstart the Big Knit campaign, because if I kickstart that, people will see what I'm doing and more people will get involved. If I did the cardigan first, we're losing knitting days of other people knitting. So, and what's been absolutely marvellous is that my daughter, who has never been a knitter until recently when she's seen me knitting, is now picking up knitting needles at every opportunity to actually knit smoothie hats. And that's absolutely marvellous. It really warms the cockles of my heart. And warming the cockles of my heart, actually, I'm getting very warm, and I'm going to take my scarf off. This beautiful scarf knitted by Jane, one of my community, but it's making me a bit too hot this morning. So let's just take that off for a minute. It's wonderful at keeping me warm, but the house is very warm and I will overheat. But, you know, I love it. I love it to bits. Anyway, so back to why I'm live streaming now. So I started knitting and my daughter started knitting, and together we have knitted quite a lot. Let me show you some of all the different sorts of hats. We started with the little bobble hats. Okay, whoops, one's gone on the floor. Hang on. We've started making bobble hats because bobble hats are quick and easy. They're great for beginners. Ooh, I'm roasting. I'm going to take this off as well. I'm so hot. Sorry, folks. So look, these are the little bobble hats like I've got on that bottle there. So these are the bobble hats. Now, this is a bit of a team effort because I and my daughter are doing the knitting and the grandchildren are making the bubbles. But our bobble maker was having a bit of issues yesterday and it's falling to bits. So I am waiting for an Amazon parcel that's got a new bobble maker in it that will be quick and easy for the children to make the bubbles. You know, they can make them very quickly and then we just stitch them on. So let me show you. Some of them have got their bubbles already. There's one and another one. Look, so these are very quick to make and they're all lots of different lovely colours. It doesn't matter. Great for using up your craft stash. All those little bits of wool when you've done a project that, you know, you've got a little bit of wool left. I save all of those and some of those go to make the smoothie hats. And of course, it doesn't matter if you make lots of different colours on your smoothie hats, the brighter the better. So I have so many ends of wool. I'm not at home at the moment. I'm going home and then I'm coming back again to help family with some things. And when I go home, I'm going to collect up loads of those tiny little balls of wool that I've got at home that can all go into these projects. So let's show you some of the other ones we've got. You know, you can see all the wonderful colours that we've got. I don't know how many we've got. We'll count them in a minute. Look, and these are all going to have bubbles on. They don't have to have bubbles, but they look quite nice with their bubbles on, don't they? So look, sparkly one, that's got some, the blue is sparkly on there, all sorts of lovely colours. So that was one my daughter did. I know that. That's another one my daughter did. I'm so proud of her because she's a brand new knitter, but look, she's managed all these beautiful hats, and to see her doing them and the excitement that she's getting actually creating those is wonderful. So there's some more and some more. Whoops, there's loads. I don't know. That's another one my daughter did. I know that she had those purple wools there. That's one I did. And look, all of these. So we've got quite a lot. I don't know, let's count them up. Let's see how many we've done of the bobble hats so far. Why don't we count them? 1, 2, 3. Wait a minute. Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whoops. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 that I've done. Some of them have to have their bubbles on. So 23, my daughter's done 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. She's done 8. She might have done more. I think there's some more in the other room. So 8, so whatever that was. Did I say 23? I can't remember. So that's about 30. And then yesterday, I've got some more here, but I'm going to show you those. They're not bobble hats. So yesterday, I noticed that Helen of Isle of Wool, where I get a lot of my wool, she's got a wool shop in Ryde, where I live, and, you know, marvellous shop, very reasonably priced items, full of wool, as you would expect, and other items to complement your knitting needles, etc. And I could see that she was promoting the Age UK page and the Big Knit campaign as well. So we got chatting in private message, and she threw down the gauntlet. She challenged me and the Go Live Granny community to make more smoothie hats than she and Anne, who works with her in Isle of Wool's shop. Well, you know I love a challenge. She threw down the gauntlet and I accepted the challenge, and that was it. Game on. I'm afraid the cardigan still hasn't got knitted, but I must knit that soon because it's actually going to be used for part of an outfit for a wedding evening reception, and so I do need to get that going with, because that's in March, so I need to do that. But at the moment I'm on the smoothie campaign just to get it kick-started so that everybody can start pitching in. Excuse me, I just got a bit of a runny nose. Sorry. So yesterday I thought, let's change it up a bit. Helen she'd put a picture up. She crochets and I knit. It doesn't matter whether it's knitting. It's called the Big Knit, but it can be crocheted hats, it can be knitted hats, it doesn't matter. And so I decided to go into the realms of different hats. Originally, when I used to make the hats, I would make the little bobble hats, because up until the last campaign, Innocent Smoothie would give 25 pence for every one of those hats. So when the campaign is going, they put those hats on the bottles in the chiller cabinets in the supermarkets, and then people buy them and they pay an extra 25p for their bottle of smoothie. I mean, they can buy a smoothie bottle without a hat on and not pay the extra, but if they want to support the campaign and want a little smoothie hat, then they can pay the extra 25p. So I've seen some of those in some of the chiller cabinets when the campaigns have been going on. I've never seen any of my own hats on them, or it's very difficult perhaps sometimes to recognise your own hats when so many hats are similar. Anyway, I was just initially doing the bubble hats because they are the quickest and easiest. And if you're going to get 25p, I could make 10 bubble hats, or perhaps only 5 of the more intricate ones in the same time that I could make 10 of the bubble hats. So it made more sense to make the bubble hats. However, when I started putting it on social media, people loved to see all the different sorts of hats. And you know, when we had national days like St. Patrick's Day, I started doing the green hats, things, you know, like a little leprechaun's hat and things like that. I would do to the themes of the days that happen throughout the year. And it made it more fun on social media. So, and I think it encouraged more people to get involved. So now I kick-started with some bubble hats so that we get we've got up to nearly about 30, my daughter and I, I think we have got 30 there between us. And then yesterday, after Helen threw the gauntlet down and said, oh, come on, let's go for this, I thought, well, let's make it fun. Let's make it more interesting than just bubble hats. So last night I started with, let me show you what I've been doing. So I started making crayons, and these patterns are, none of them are my own. If you go Google the Big Knit, and I'll put the links underneath, you will find lots and lots of patterns. Now I found a page called Joe's Big Knit, and there are all sorts of patterns from all sorts of people on there, and that's where I found these crayon patterns, and I will put the link underneath. So I've done a red one, I've done a yellow one, there's going to be a whole crayon box. I've done a pink one, whoops, there we are, got my sewing up needle in there. I've got a blue one. I've just picked up, just brought down from upstairs some lilac wool. I've got some green wool in my bag. I'm going to knit all sorts. So you have a whole crayon box of knitted hats. I've also in the past made dinosaurs. I've made Sooty and Sweep. I've made post boxes. I've made, I think, octopuses, all sorts. There are hats for almost anything you can think of. And so really what I want to do now is encourage any of you out there to join in the big knit campaign. Now, my daughter lives in Wiltshire. She's actually making hats for Isle of Wight Age UK, but she wants to get her area going. And obviously for them, it would be more important to join in with a Age UK local, like Age UK Wiltshire. I expect there is one, I think. And she started encouraging people in Wiltshire to do it. It doesn't matter. It's a national charity. So Age UK is the main charity, but all the others are individual charities linked to Age UK, but I linked to the national one. But I wanted to do Isle of Wight because obviously that's where I live, and I would like to see that money staying on the island. And so, as I say, we have to hit target. 12,500 hats for the Isle of Wight. I don't think it's going to be difficult with Helen and myself throwing down the gauntlet and challenging each other. That's going to whip up an awful lot of hats. There are other wonderful people on the island who've already been knitting. I noticed Age UK had put a post up the other day saying they'd had 700 hats in the other day. So there are already a lot of people knitting. It's not a competition about, really about who does the most. It's just a thing to see, let's get as many as we can, because what they've done this year is they've upped it. It's always been 25 pence a hat. This year they've upped it to 30 pence a hat. So every hat will be worth an extra 5p. You multiply that by hundreds and thousands, that's a lot of extra pennies. So folks, that's my request to you. Either pick up your knitting needles, learn to, if you don't know how to knit, go onto YouTube. There's some wonderful tutorials on there. I've knitted since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, but if I wanted to crochet, which I did, in recent years, I went onto YouTube and found somebody that I could relate to, somebody who had a nice voice I liked listening to, somebody who worked slowly, so I could see what she was doing with her hands, and that's how I learned to crochet. So if you want to knit or you want to crochet and be part of the Big Knit campaign, please, you know, if you don't know how to do it, learn now. It is so relaxing. It is once you get to know it, it's not maybe so relaxing when you're learning it, but once you've done it, it is so therapeutic. I believe that they should put knitting as a therapy on the NHS. I really believe that, you know, people should be taught to knit as a therapy because it is so relaxing. And if you ask lots of knitters, they will all say the same thing. You know, every day I like to have done some knitting because it really gives me the chill pill factor. And so that's what I'm urging you to do. If you don't want to knit, but you've enjoyed the broadcast, please hit the share button and share it with as many people as you can, because that's where the magic happens. The magic is in the numbers, you know, and there's lots of us knitting already. But if you hit the share button and lots more knitters get involved, that's how the numbers mount up. We've done it in the past for getting votes for various projects for the Isle of Wight. And, you know, it really is, the magic is in the community. Hashtag sharing is caring is something I always say. If you can't knit, you can, you know, just hit the share button and let everybody know about this great campaign, because it literally takes a second to hit that share button. It takes a bit longer to make the hats. But if you do decide to join in, pop me a comment and let me know, because I would love to give you, you know, just a shout out for doing that, whether it's for the Isle of Wight or whether it's for Wiltshire or whether it's for anywhere else in the UK. It doesn't matter. It's all good stuff. So that's it for me, finished now. I need to go and do some more knitting. So I have got, Helen and I started the challenge yesterday in competition. And so these ones and one other smoothie hat were the ones I started yesterday. So I've got 5 so far. I don't know where Helen's up to. Helen runs a wool shop. When she's not got customers, she's crocheting. So she's there with her crochet needle all the time. I'm a retiree, so, you know, I can do a lot. Let's see if I can keep up with her. But the challenge was for me and the Go Live Granny community against her and Anne, who also is a prolific knitter and works with her in the shop. So let's see what we can do, folks. You know, what number should we set? The first challenge is Easter. You know, that the whole period goes up to the end of June. We have to have all the hats in to Age UK Isle of Wight by the last day of June. If you can make them on the Isle of Wight, but you can't get to the office, and I'm not talking about dropping in the Age UK shops, because the Age UK shops mostly only relate to the national charity. So don't take, one of the shops will give them to Age UK Isle of Wight, but I've forgotten which one it is, so that's not much help. I'll try and put that in the comment. You know, they need to go to Age UK Isle of Wight office. If you can't get to Newport to take them there, but you can get to Ryde, give them to Helen at Isle of Wool shop, and you won't be sorry to go in there. I mean, you might be when you come out, because you might have spent a lot of money, because it's just a wonderful Aladdin's cave. But drop them in there and she will make sure that they get to the office in time. Thanks for your time. Please go share, and tell the world all about Age UK Isle of Wight, the fantastic work that they do for people on the Isle of Wight, and I will put their link underneath, and how you can help with keeping that work going, whether it's by knitting or whether it's by sharing this video. Thanks for watching. Happy National Hat Day. See you soon.